In order to pay off the debt, the man had to sell his underage daughter. Seeing her more mature body, he was even more angry. In order to protect his daughter, the mother used a rope to tie her ex-husband to death. Until now, there is still no way out. If the man leaves alive, the wait for the mother and daughter will be a more desperate consequence. So they can only bet on the whole life and tie the man to death. This is the movie Suspect X, which was adapted by the Japanese detective novelist Toyo Koiwu. This morning, the police found a naked man by the river. There are obvious scars on the body's neck, but the face was destroyed and the fingerprints on the hand were also blurred. It seems that the murderer did it on purpose, but the police soon confirmed the identity of the deceased during the visit. The other party's name is Fu Jiansheng, a night patrolman. He used to stay in a hotel before the incident. In the investigation, the police also found that the deceased married a nightclub woman named Huageng Jingzi 6 years ago. But not long after they had a fight, and it was very unpleasant. The police thought that this case might be related to Jingzi, so they came to the police station. Faced with the police's interrogation, Jingzi felt nervous, but he could provide all the non-existent evidence. Due to the police's deduction of the time of the crime, Jingzi had a movie ticket to prove it. At that time, he did take his daughter to the cinema to watch a movie. The police can only temporarily rule out the suspicion of Jingzi, and behind all this is a perfect layout. The man's name is Shi Shen, a neighbor of Jingzi and a math teacher in high school. His logical thinking ability is unbelievable. After the incident, he would call Jingzi every night to help him get rid of the suspicion of the case. Every time, Shi Shen would feel a sense of happiness. But not long after, Shi Shen went home that night and saw someone he didn't want to see the most. This person's name is Tang Chuan, an old classmate of his. He is also Jingxiao's most powerful case expert. When he learned that the other party had accepted this case, Shi Shen knew that ordinary methods couldn't stop Tang Chuan. So he decided to take advantage of the situation. First, he invited the other party to drink at home. Then, when he was drunk and fell asleep, he secretly opened the cabinet on the side and showed the rope inside. When Tang Chuan left, he said something inexplicable again. Tang Chuan was stunned. In his mind, Shi Shen was only interested in math. But why is he starting to care about his appearance now? This made Tang Chuan very confused. If a man who doesn't repair bats starts to pay attention to his appearance, then it can be basically confirmed that this man is either in love or has a lover. After a survey, he found that Shi Shen always went to Jingzi's restaurant to eat. This is the reason why he was mistaken. If Shi Shen killed Jingzi's ex-husband for his lover, then everything makes sense. In order to further confirm the case, Tang Chuan and his assistant returned to the scene of the crime and reanalyzed the case. Previously, they always thought that the suspect asked the victim to the riverside and then erased the trace of his murder. But Tang Chuan had another idea. In his opinion, the murderer destroyed the victim's face and the fingerprints on his hand, which showed that the victim was extremely cautious. But why was he so careless to leave the victim's bicycle on the scene and there were fingerprints on it? This is obviously not normal. In other words, was Shi Shen killed in another place and brought here? After reanalyzing the case, Tang Chuan felt that Shi Shen could not be the murderer. Because as far as he knew Shi Shen, even if the other party really wanted to protect Jingzi's mother and daughter, they would use other more effective and less risky methods. It's impossible to be stupid enough to kill someone. But such a meticulous method of committing a crime is not something that an ordinary woman can think of. Then there is only one possibility, which is that after Jingzi committed the crime, Shi Shen, who knew the situation, deliberately faked the scene to mislead the police on purpose in order to clear his name. And he used a false, non-existent evidence to completely remove Jingzi's mother and daughter from the case. I have to say that Tang Chuan really knows Shi Shen well enough. But as Shi Shen, who also has top-notch logical thinking, how could he leave so many loopholes? Marino Kurumi. You haven't told the police about that yet, have you? Mr. Ishigami told me not to tell you yet. Then listen carefully to what I'm going to say from now on. As expected, as soon as the phone rang, all of Tang Chuan's inferences were directly denied. Because the premise of the inference must be that the non-existent evidence, that is, the movie ticket, is fake. But according to the police investigation, during the crime, someone did see Jingzi with her daughter appear in the cinema. No way. It can't be. When Tang Chuan was trapped, Shi Shen on the other side was smiling. Obviously, he had already expected all of this. But soon he couldn't laugh. Because that night, He saw that the mirror he admired for a long time actually came down from another man's car. It looks like a very unusual relationship. At this time, the mirror standing in the rain also saw Xia Shen in the corridor. How could he not know about this man's feelings? Fortunately, when he turned around again, the other party had already turned around and returned to the house. But this scene buried a seed of hatred in Xu Shen's mind. He began to follow the man who sent Jingzi home. He desperately wanted to know what the relationship between him and Jingzi was. When Xu Shen was preparing to take revenge, Tang Chuan, who was eating on the other side, suddenly thought of a sentence that Xu Shen had said. For example, "It looks like a problem with the machine, but it's actually a problem with the function. If you change your perspective a little bit, it should be solved." Thinking of this, Tang Chuan and his colleagues took out Xu Shen's love-hate watch at school. At first glance, he really found the problem. He hasn't asked Jingzi for help for a long time, but a few days before the crime, he asked for leave in a row. This made Tang Chuan notice something, so the alliance called Xu Shen and wanted to meet him, but Xu Shen refused on the pretext of having something to do tonight. Could it be that Xu Shen is planning something again? "I'm not a man like you." Faced with the threat of Xu Shen, Jingzi was terrified. She couldn't believe that the man who had been taking care of her for a long time would do such an extreme thing. Jingzi asked her daughter if she couldn't meet other men. "If you do that, Mr. Ishigami will hate you. Mr. Ishigami will be on your side. It's for your mother's sake." In Jingzi's opinion, it's his freedom to date anyone. If Xu Shen even wants to meddle in this, what's the difference between him and his dead ex-husband? For this reason, the mother and daughter had a fight. When Jingzi didn't know what to do, the phone suddenly rang. The person who called was Xu Shen. He told Jingzi that he had left her 2 letters. The letters in the white envelopes will be used to be kept well, and the brown one should be destroyed immediately after reading. Before Jingzi could ask what was going on, Xu Shen hung up the phone silently. The next morning, Xu Shen came to the police station to turn himself in. He said that on the day of the crime, he saw Jingzi's ex-husband sneaking around. In order to avoid hurting Jingzi's mother and daughter, he strangled her with a wire and brought it to the mountain. He smashed the other person's face with a stone and burned the fingerprints with a fire extinguisher in order to destroy the clue. According to Xu Shen's confession, the police did find the wire used for murder in his house and the device used to monitor Jingzi on the wall. At this time, Xu Shen was completely regarded by the police as a pervert. But he didn't refute anything. It seems that all this is what he wants. And when Jingzi was questioned by the police, he also admitted that Xu Shen was the murderer. Because in his opinion, Xu Shen has changed. He has become as terrible as his ex-husband. When the police asked him if he had been followed by Xu Shen, Jingzi took out a white letter. It was a photo taken by Xu Shen and some words threatening Jingzi to break up. But when all the evidence pointed to Xu Shen as the murderer, the daughter next to him cried so hard. After the police left, Jingzi remembered that there was another brown letter that was destroyed immediately when Xu Shen asked him to read it. He said that he would definitely dispose of it if he saw it. He said that he would support their future actions. He said that he was being stalked by someone. And as before, no matter what questions you receive from the police, just tell them the truth. Just tell them the truth. Then you too can be protected. It turned out that all this was part of Xu Shen's plan. He only wanted to protect the person he wanted to protect. As Tang Chuan, who has always been regarded as an opponent of Xu Shen, he quickly deduced all this. But he also knew that if this case was implemented, the ending was doomed to be miserable. So he found Jingzi as an ordinary person and told the truth of the whole thing. It turned out that the reason why Jingzi didn't show up in the police interrogation was because what he said was true. During the interrogation, he was indeed watching a movie with his daughter, but it didn't mean that Jingzi wasn't the murderer. "You killed Togashi Shinji because it was December 1st the day before that." That's right. This is the highlight of Xu Shen. He forged the time of the crime and let the police fall into the mist from the beginning. When the crime happened, he was studying math at home. When he rushed over, his ex-husband had died. In order to help the mother and daughter escape the crime, Xu Shen carefully processed the body first and hired a vagabond with money to let him live in the hotel where his ex-husband lived. His purpose was to leave traces of vagabonds in the room. At night, he asked the vagabond to go to the river and strangled him to death while he was not ready. In order to completely disguise the vagabond as Jingzi's ex-husband, Xu Shen smashed the body's face and burned the fingerprints on his hand. The fingerprints on the bicycle were left to keep the same as in the hotel. This can mislead the police. At the same time, it is also the reason why he asked for leave in a row. Tang Chuang said that as long as the identity of the vagabond was found, the truth would be revealed. But Xishen didn't care at all. It turned out that Xishen had also fallen into a valley and even wanted to end his life. Unexpectedly, at this critical moment, Jingzi appeared in Xishen's world with his daughter. The gentle sunshine gave him hope again. Since then, Xishen has always paid attention to Jingzi's restaurant, just to see more of the woman who brought him hope. However, when Xishen was in a good memory, a voice suddenly woke him up. Knowing that all the truth is on the ground, Jingzi kneels on the ground. He can't accept Xishen to take everything alone and chooses to surrender, but this action is undoubtedly the most cruel blow to Shen. He tried his best not to involve the innocent and entered the game with his life to get rid of Jingzi, but in the end, he still lost. There are different comments on the internet about Xishen's behavior in the video. Some people think that in order to repay his kindness, he entered the game with his life. But in order to achieve his goal, he did not hesitate to hurt innocent vagabonds and must pay the price. What do you think about this? That's all for today.